We are a week into Canada's training camp in Red Deer for the upcoming World Junior Hockey Championships, and happy to be joined by Sam Cosentino. A week in, Sam, and Red Deer has sort of been a hockey bubble for Team Canada, but it doesn't always work. How are they dealing with some coaches testing positive for COVID?
Well, it's more about the contact tracing, and it was a quote, a non-core staff member, but that non-core staff member did have some contact with Jason LaBarbera, the goalie coach, and Michael Dick, who's really looking after the power play. So they've had to make some adjustments in that way while they go through this 14-day quarantine. In terms of LaBarbera, he's the one I think that is most impacted from a team perspective, because they have 5 goalies in camp that really is a wide open situation. They will be allowed to take 3 of them, but getting down there, getting your boots on the ground, getting to be able to talk and meet with the kids and get a sense of what they're like away from the ice is really, really important. So LaBarbera's not going to have that chance, other than what we're doing right now is by Zoom. And when it comes to Michael Dick, he's a guy who looks after the power play. Tyler Dietrich, who normally looks after the video for Hockey Canada's World Junior team, will step in that role. But definitely long, significant absences with both of those coaches.
Well, Sam, you discussed the goaltending. I think everyone's talking about that. Canada's always stacked up front, stacked on defense, and I'm not sure if it's concerned because it's a bit early. There isn't a returning goalie. How do you size up those 5 goaltenders shooting to be 1, 2, or possibly 3?
Yeah, it's a really interesting mix of goalies. I mean, you have Taylor Gauthier, who's the veteran. You have Tristan Lennox. Both of those guys have pretty good size, and they do have some track record with Hockey Canada. And then you move down the list, and you look at a guy like Brett Brochu, who literally, Gene, came out of nowhere to be a star with the London Knights last year. And then you look at a smaller guy in Devon Levi, who's a guy who's playing at Northeastern, who's way through the Hockey Canada system, including the World Junior A Challenge. He has put out lights out numbers. So when you look at the big picture and all of these guys that they're having to mix and match, it's going to be fascinating to see who emerges from the group. But I like the little battling guys when it comes to Levi, when it comes to Brochu, and then you get the more kind of staunch guys who have a little bit of that cock of the walk and the size to them. So it is a really interesting mix. But the way it's played out so far through 2 games, I think Brett Brochu really has the upper hand so far as being a guy who looks more like a lock. Dylan Garand is a guy from Kamloops who I really like. We haven't talked about him a whole lot, Gene, but he's a guy who plays that type of style where he doesn't really let the bad one in, and he really treats himself like a pro away from the rink. So this group of guys is extremely fascinating. If I had to handicap it through 2 games so far, Brett Brochu would be the guy.
Well, due to COVID restrictions and travel issues, it took a little while for everyone to get there and be able to get on the ice. Now that they're there, how important is that, Sam? And are you finding any players or lines that are standing out early in camp?
Yeah, super important to get everyone involved. You want to give everyone a fair shake. And after the game on Sunday night, Andre Tournier said, we want our guys to play games. We want to do a little bit of teaching on the bench. Of course, we want to get into systems and practice, but we want our guys to play games and get the rust off as quickly as possible to better allow us to evaluate the players. So you're looking at Ridley Gregg, Xavier Simoneau comes in from Drummondville. You look at the 3 guys from NCAA programs, Levi, we talked about already, Dylan Holloway being another one of those guys. So trying to get, and Alex Newhook being the other, trying to get those guys integrated quickly, get them up to speed, get them into game action is going to be important. So Levi is expected to play a half a game on Tuesday. That will be interesting for him. They want to get the goalies in there slowly because that seems to be the position when you have time off, toughest to get back to speed with, although it's looked pretty good so far. But when you look at the entirety of the camp so far, the guys who are really excelling, Gene, are all the guys who are in the bubble with the NHL teams. Connor McMichael with Washington. Philip Tomasino's been dynamite. Kirby Doc, Peyton Krebs. The list goes on. Bowen Byram. But 3 guys in particular have really stuck out to me. Philip Tomasino is a Nashville first-rounder, right shot. He and Kirby Doc had some spectacular chemistry and accounted, along with Connor Zary, for 4 of the 6 goals Team White scored in a 6-3 win on Sunday night. So I think those guys have really taken a step forward. Kirby Doc, of course, played with the Chicago Blackhawks. He was in the bubble. He's experienced some things throughout the course of last year. Unbelievable. But Bowen Byram, man, oh man, this guy looks like an NHLer right now. We talked about Cale Makar when he was inserted as the 4th overall pick a couple of years ago in the Colorado's lineup. Bowen Byram is not far behind. He is absolutely dynamic, owning the ice right now. But no question, the guys that spent time in the NHL bubble, Gene, those are the guys that have excelled so far.
Sam, is there an update on the #1 overall pick from the 2020 NHL entry draft and his possibilities of coming to Red Deer?
Well, some news did come out the other day, and it was interesting to know that because they're going to move into the bubble on December 13th. But the IIHF instituted a rule, according to Scott Salmon of Hockey Canada, that says anyone who's going into the bubble with the team must be there at least 1 week prior, so on December 6th, and must also have a negative result for 3 COVID-19 tests. So that would say to me that if you're Alexis Lafrenière, you're going to have to get there by the 6th at the latest. Make sure you go through your testing to be allowed to go. The whole thing hinging on Lafrenière is really, when is the start of the NHL season? There's no question the Rangers want their #1 guy, and they obviously want to implement him as being in their top 9, probably their top 6. So they want him to get a full camp in and want him to hit the ground running. I tend to think a little bit differently. I'd love to get him up to game speed. Whenever the camp starts, and that's still uncertain right now, he will have come off a great experience with the World Juniors again and hit the ground running with the New York Rangers. So that's what I would prefer, and not selfishly for Canada, but I think that would be the best thing for both Alexis and the Rangers.
Well, Canada would take him in a New York minute. We know that. Sam, appreciate the insight, and we'll chat soon.
Okay, great. Thanks, Gene.